On our show of January 6, 2011, our guest was Rachel Kingston, and she was here at that time to tell her horrifying story of her abusive marriage in the Kingston polygamy group. How she finally got away and the battle that she faced economically and emotionally and judiciously to fight almost for her very breath. And during that same time, there was a battle for the custody of her children, 3 little girls. Tonight, Rachel is back to tell the rest of the story, except the story isn't quite over, not yet, because she's got more to go on this, but she's here to update us with what's been going on. And so to get started with it, I would like to introduce and welcome back to our show a very courageous ex-polygamist wife and mother, Rachel Brown, previously Rachel Kingston. Thanks for coming back, Rachel.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, you got some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
What's been going on, and you know you have had, Rachel, probably one of the worst times of a lot of the people that I've worked with, and your fight to be set free, the prejudices of the court and the people that have kind of been hounding you somewhat in this journey that you've been going on. And they tried to keep you captive, maybe not in the polygamy group, but at least in their system, in what they're manipulating you and in your life. And I really personally want to commend you. I honestly, from my heart, think you stood up very well, and you've been strong and endured through it. And there's more to go, but you're being strong, and I just really want to say that you're going to win someday. It's going to be over. So first of all, let's refresh our viewers on your story. For our older viewers maybe who don't quite remember your story, and for new viewers who probably haven't heard your story at all. So very quickly, let's go over the basis of your story that you told when you were first here. You were born and raised in the Kingston group. At one time, your husband had 4 wives, and all but one has left him. So is it normal for a man's wives to leave him like that? And why did they leave, and why did you leave?
If they're happy, then I don't see that there would be any reason for them to leave. And that just goes further to just demonstrate what's going on behind the scenes and what life is really like. I mean, each of us have actually been a part of a different kind of abuse. I mean, he was more abusive with some than others, and
was it because of abuse that all three of you left?
Absolutely. And like I said, if you're happy with how your life is and you're being treated well, someone, I mean, that they love you and they actually show that they love you, especially through their actions, then you're not going to want to run off so much like they did. Exactly.
So how long has it been since you left, and how many children have you?
It's been about 4 years since I left, and I have 3 girls. 3
little girls. Mm-hmm. And that's a clutch of some of what we're going to be talking about. What did your husband do when he discovered your plans to get away?
Well, initially when I had planned to leave, then my husband, who never picked up my kids from daycare, then he showed up early to pick them up, and my grandparents that had been watching them, and when I called them, then they acted like it was normal for him to be picking up the kids, and they were grateful because they were going out of town for a trip. And shortly afterwards, then I mean, I had been trying to get a hold of my husband to find out what was going on, because it seemed really odd. And a little while later, I had gotten a phone call from an attorney, and they just basically told me that a restraining order was filed against me. And I was just shocked. I was just, I didn't know what to do with myself.
There's no way that he could have found out that you were planning on leaving unless he had, I think, broken into your email account, right?
And that's the only way that I can really think of. I mean, they've got a lot of people in the group that
spy on each other.
Well, technology savvy and just know how to
Yeah.
work their way through a computer and whatever else it might be.
So he actually took your little girls, and to keep you from leaving, keeping
Right.
them hostage to keep you from leaving.
Right.
So that kind of throws a lump in the idea that all of this is just consenting adults living polygamy because they want to, right?
Right. I mean, and maybe it appears that way, but I don't believe at all that it's consenting adults. I mean, and
No.
you're just dealing with a lot of children pretending to be adults.
Well, that, and they trying to coerce you into doing something that you didn't want to do, and that was to stay. Would you say that you personally had any marriage or financial benefits from living polygamy?
I don't feel like there was any benefits at all. And the thing that just really threw me is when I was first married, then I thought my husband would actually take care of me. I mean, not to the extent that of being lazy or anything, but just the idea that, I mean, he would be an actual husband and support me where I needed it.
Yeah, at least provide for you and your children.
Right. And
What kind of housing did he provide for you? Let's talk about that a little bit.
a
Or
lot
did he?
A lot of the apartments that I ended up in, they were just really run down, always had a lot of maintenance problems. Even the last apartment I lived in, then the stove that was there, I mean, if you moved it in any way, then it would shock you. And he just said, just be careful.
So
I don't know how well you can do that trying to cook food.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing that I find is that, I mean, I lived there for probably 3 or 4 years at my last apartment, and not once was he interested in fixing it up. And after I left, suddenly he was offering to replace the cupboards and to fix everything up nice and just to make it a nice place for me to live, just as a condition for coming back.
To get you to come
And
back.
I mean, I didn't feel like it was worth it. I mean, I felt like I'd seen the light, and then I wanted something different. I wanted something better, and I didn't think that where I was at was the best. And that's really.
And he actually required you to pay rent, didn't he, to him?
And
That seems to be the normal for the Kingston men to require their wives to pay them rent.
well, and, I mean, it's interesting about that because, I mean, they just supposedly they're going out earning a living, and you wonder where all their money is going if they're not supporting their family. I mean,
Yeah. That's
it just seems a little off to me.
One of the great tragedies. So he didn't provide for your rent and your good housing and medical and dental and food. Didn't you have to eat out of the dumpster and different things like that?
And, you know, generally we didn't have medical or dental. I mean, the idea was there was so much fear in going to doctors. I mean, you didn't know if they would maybe tell if you were injured or maybe give you a shot that might kill you.
Yeah, that's just fear.
It just sounds all fabricated, but there was a lot of people that actually had it set up with like different grocery stores that when they threw out their produce, then they asked to get it before it went to the dumpster, which isn't saying much because I mean,
No,
once it's in the
headed for the
dumpster, I mean,
dumpster.
it's not really in good enough condition to be eating.
Right, exactly right. So you finally managed to get out with your children, and you got your case in court, and you you actually got legal custody of your 3 little girls, and you got out of your unsafe housing, which it was unsafe,
Right.
and into a housing program where you were kind of safe from harassment and able to kind of get both feet on the ground. And then you went to school. You needed some schooling to get a career or something going, and so tell us about that.
And anybody leaving, they need to find stability, and I felt like, I mean, I didn't even graduate high school. It wasn't until just a just right before I left, and I felt like it was important to at least get my GED because I knew that a lot of places require it. And so I did get my GED, and it made it possible for me to go into school. I went to massage school. I felt like it's helped me really grow and just start making a better life for myself, for my girls, and just to move forward away from everything that I've experienced. And
Yeah, and that's very good. And you graduated?
I did.
And so now you're working as a massage therapist?
I am,
Do
and
you like it?
I really love it. I get so much out of it. I'm able to help people, and I mean, I can see right in front of me like what I'm doing for them, and that I'm able to make a difference for people.
That's great. That's wonderful. So let's update your story at this point. First of all, your husband could afford an attorney. You couldn't.
Right.
When all this first began, you left with absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
And your husband and his attorneys, they seem to just drag this through court long periods of time to frustrate you, and of course it kept, you didn't have money to hire an attorney, and then there began a long custody battle for your 3 little girls, which you eventually lost.
Right.
Would you explain what happened?
The thing that happened is that when we had gone back to court, then there has been issues about the visitation, like the whole time. It's been just a tug of war trying to make it work. It's just been a horrible thing to deal with, and so we were going back based on that, specifically the summertime, and right before the hearing, then me and my girls had met with the guardian ad litem, and she told me at that time, she says, I'm going to recommend to the judge that she does not change custody. And so when we went into court, then, I mean, that was her recommendation, and the judge didn't even consider it. I mean, it was shocking to a lot of people. I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, because I'm sure it does, and of course it happened in my case, but I mean, a lot of people seemed really shocked that she went against it. And I mean, it just makes me wonder, why would a judge assign a guardian ad litem if it wasn't necessary and if they didn't feel like their opinion mattered?
Right.
I mean, reality is they're the one that are actually talking to the kids. They're understanding what they're going through, and
they go to the place and they see where they're living, and they get the direct input.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I was there. I was at the court, and so I know what you're saying is true. And she did recommend that you remain custody, and the judge gave 3 little girls to a polygamous father to live in a polygamy group, the custody. And you know what? I seemed like I saw there, and these are the points that I made from what I saw there, and feel free to add your own to this. The guardian ad litem recommended that you keep the girls. The judge went against that. She gave those 3 little girls to a known abuser. She knew your husband was abusive.
She was fully aware that he is a part of a polygamous lifestyle. She's fully aware, and she even said so. She even mentioned it in our divorce papers. And it just surprises me. I just don't know what to think. I mean,
and another shocking thing is, what do little girls grow up to be in a polygamy group?
Well, I mean,
they grow up to be plural wives, don't they?
Well, exactly. I mean, you just grow up to please your husband, please the men, and you really don't have a voice. I mean, you're just expected to just sit back and do whatever they say, and you're not allowed to speak out. And if you do, I mean, who knows what'll happen? I mean, it's just terrifying to even think of what they may do.
And the judge knows polygamy is illegal, and yet she she gave those little girls. I don't know what to say. Sometimes I just. And she also knew. And how many children the first wife had? The one that is watching your kids now.
So when we started initially going through our divorce proceedings, then she had 3 children, and since then she's had 3 more. So she's got 6 little ones.
6 of her own and 3 of yours.
Exactly, and that, I mean, they're. I mean, I don't know that she could really ever truly love my kids. She could say it all she wants, but I just don't believe that. I mean, you can truly love someone else's kids. It's just way too many kids in a household, anyways.
Well, it is. It definitely is. And I really believe that from everything I saw, that the judge did not have the children's interests at heart. It sounded like, to me, it looked like she was trying to punish you, and the way she could punish you was to take your kids away from you. She didn't consider the best interest of the kid. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that work with the legal system that probably thinks that I'm up in the night saying something like this, but that happened. I saw it. That happened.
Well, the thing is that I tried to reach out to the judge and just let her know, like, this is what I've experienced. This is the abuse that I've experienced. This is what I've been through, and I hope that you can consider that in your decision. And she seemed to turn around and make it into that I was retaliating against the court and not doing what they wanted me to do. And so her comments were, she's like, these kids are going to have lots of time with their dad. And I mean, that it just makes me sick because, I mean, polygamy is illegal, and whether it's talked about or not, there is abuse that goes on, and it's not safe.
And whether it's talked about or not, the entire case, he was an abuser. I mean, it wasn't a secret from the judge, from the attorneys, from the guardian ad litem, from anybody. He was an abuser.
Even when we were going through our proceedings, then there were actual documents that he admitted to abuse, specifically to my son that passed away. And I mean, he admitted to beating him, and there was no consideration.
There was a DCFS worker that said that she knew he was an abuser, and she wanted to make sure that got out. What happened with that?
I just don't know what to think. I mean, from what she told me, I thought that there may be actually something done, that there was really someone that was interested in the best interests of my kids and them being safe. And when we had a follow-up hearing, then she showed up, and there was another caseworker there. She wouldn't say anything about what was going on. She just said, it's been turned over to this other casework. He's got it from here.
So she wasn't able to follow through and make sure that his abuse was...
Yeah, she wasn't able to do anything further. I mean, I don't know if maybe she was threatened, bought off. I don't know. And it just surprises me.
So... and another point I'd like to make in this too is that he claimed that he couldn't afford child support to you for when you had custody of the girls. He claimed he couldn't afford, full child support for the children, and yet he has 3 more kids and then has yours too. So he added 6 more kids to his household after he couldn't afford child support for your kids.
And surprising enough that during our divorce, then suddenly his wages were decreasing. I mean, he claims that it came down to a choice: either he loses his job or he takes a pay cut, which I find hard to believe because he works for his dad. And and somewhere along the way, then he actually signed up for public assistance, and he gets public assistance now for, as far as I know, for all of the kids.
Wow. They pay the system, they call it bleeding the beast, and the polygamy groups do that. that's part of their modus operandi. So the judge, did she require you to pay child support now?
And at the hearing, then his attorney had just put that I was supposed to pay him in the papers, and I questioned that, and her response was, "That's just how it goes." and the thing about that is they were working in massage work on a commission based, and so sometimes the income can be unpredictable, but they just said, "Oh, well, we're just going to calculate your wages at 40 hours a week, and you're going to have to start paying him child support."
Oh my goodness. So are you paying child support now?
To this point, I haven't. It's supposed to be going through ORS, and I don't know what's going on with that.
Right. Which is really kind of, well, I won't say what that wouldn't be nice. So do you believe that the judge had the children's best interest at heart when she made that final ruling?
I don't think she even considered it. I don't know that she, maybe she's a nice person, I don't know, but my dealings with her, she seems pretty heartless. And
you didn't even have your own attorney at that last hearing, did you?
No, I didn't.
So she did all this without having anyone to defend you?
Right. And the thing that I found is, in the legal system, then it seems like the judge will listen to you if you have an attorney by your side. If you have no one to speak for you, then you're on your own, and who knows where the chips may fall.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it too. But I thought it was our right to have an attorney by our side, and that the hearing could stop until you got one.
Right.
After the custody change was completed, your daughter told a friend at school that she wanted to kill herself. What happened about that?
And just right after the judge had changed custody, then I had gotten a call from school, and they were really concerned, and they says that my daughter had told her friend that she wanted to take a knife to school, and she wanted to kill herself. She wanted to do it in front of everybody so that everyone could watch and basically see how miserable she was. And when we went back to court after that, then I asked the judge, I just told her, I says, it would be really sad if she actually went through with it. And she didn't really have anything to say. And I just felt really sad about it because, if any of my children was going to do it, I believe that she would.
Was the guardian ad litem there at that?
She was at that hearing, and I don't know that anything she would have said would have made a difference, because she had already made up her mind how it was going to go.
So after all of this, what is your opinion of the available legal help for those who are escaping polygamy? Have you found that many of the attorneys are afraid of the P word? I think you put it one day.
Well, the thing is I feel like the attorneys are afraid of the unknown, and the other thing to consider is that, if you have enough money to throw at them to make it worth them fighting polygamy, which, could go into tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight, whether it's a polygamy group or someone within the lifestyle. And they just don't, they just don't want to take on.
They don't want to go on that.
Those kind of people.
And normally when a woman leaves polygamy group, she has children, normally.
Right.
And she wants the children to get away from the abusiveness of being raised in that environment, but she comes out with the clothes on her back and nothing more, and she can't pay an attorney. And so justice is served only to those who have the money to pay for it. The children suffer, and the one who's trying to flee suffers and becomes a victim all over again, remains a victim of the culture.
Yeah, for sure. There's such a need for legal help for people that leave, and it's just not there. And I mean, I don't know whether people are afraid to just come out and say, "I'll help you. I'll be there for you. I'll take you through it all." And I mean, it's really frustrating, and it's such a challenge to not have that, and that's just the biggest need.
The polygamy groups can pay the attorney bills, or they have their own attorneys. You can't pay. It's definitely a system that's set up that you can't win. You still want to find an attorney.
I do.
Who will fight for you to get those kids out of the polygamist home, a home of 9 children, all of them under the age of what?
My oldest is 10.
So 9 children, all under the age of 10 years old, and back to her custody, and fight for the rights of those children before a judge who will not penalize Rachel by hurting the children. When they're raised in polygamy, they believe that they're taught that anything outside of the polygamy group is corrupt. It is bad. All outsiders are bad, including
Right.
the court systems, obviously. And they're also taught that they're not required to obey the law. They're above the law, so they don't have to keep the law. That's what we're taught in the polygamy groups. And females especially are supposed to obey the man, the male, the father, then the husband, the leader of the group are all male. After all, they're going to be future gods, and you've got to learn how to submit and surrender to these men and to their authority, no matter how unjust it is. So when you leave the polygamy situation, when you first get out, you're still brainwashed. It takes a lot of work and a lot of unlearning a lot of things in order to even have the courage to speak out and to know what you're speaking out for. Would you say that was pretty good analogy of what it's like?
I would say that's pretty accurate, and I don't think that you can ever completely get rid of all you've experienced. I mean, the mental and emotional trauma will always be there. It's just a matter of learning how to work through it and being able to be free of it, because it can only hold you back if you do nothing.
And right now, your girls are being subjected to that brainwashing, that mental abuse, physical abuse, if he's continued to be physically abusive like he's been in the past.
And the thing about that is, whenever my kids are with me, then, I mean, they just talk like they fear their dad so much, and I just don't think it's right, because, like I said before, if you truly love your family, your kids, your wife, whatever it might be, then why would they fear you?
Exactly.
I mean, they are scared to death.
Yeah. Respect is different than fear.
Exactly.